Welcome to the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. I'm your host, Leah Wellborn, the Mystic Autistic. I created this podcast because I used to be very, very sad. In fact, for decades, I hated being alive. In 2020, I was touched by grace and I decided to live in joy no matter what that took. The result? I empowered my magical self. Along the way, I was diagnosed as autistic at the age of 48. I also became a Reiki healer and an ordained minister. My mission now is to continue to empower my magical self and to help you empower your magical self, whoever and wherever you may be. In each episode, I'll be talking with someone who has helped me empower my magical self. I'll ask them about the experiences in their lives that have shaped them, and I'll ask each guest to answer one question. What is magic? Join me for all 13 episodes of Empower Your Magical Self, Season 2. Coming up next on episode 11 of Season 2 of Empower Your Magical Self, Meghan Rubinstein of Sakala in Denver joins me, the Mystic Autistic, for an hour of conversation. Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of the second season of my podcast, Empower Your Magical Self. I'm Leah Wellborn, the Mystic Autistic, and I'm very excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest, who you will meet in a few minutes, is someone who, for a change, I actually know from real life. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but I actually know this woman. I have met her at her establishment called Sakala. Sakala is here in this area in Denver. I'm a little outside Denver, but that's where Sakala is. So what is Sakala, you may ask? Well, you will find out all about that in the episode to come. First, though, I would like to tell you about my book, which is available for sale now on Amazon and on TikTok. It's called Empower Your Magical Self with a 1-month habit break, a handbook for reclaiming sovereignty in 30 days. What the heck is sovereignty? It's something I had never really thought about before I got well, which is maybe kind of telling. Sovereignty means being in charge of your own life and your own reality and not seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance, working with what you have and doing the best that you can. And when you have some habits that stand in the way of your joy, it's a good chance they stand in the way of your sovereignty too. And it's really easy to develop habits like that. This whole society is kind of built on encouraging consumption, and overconsumption can become a habit that stands in the way of your joy. So that's what this book is all about. I quit a few habits that were standing in the way of my joy, namely drinking quite a bit every day. That was my habit. No judgment. It served its purpose for a while and then it stopped serving its purpose. And I needed to find a way to stop. And I did. And that's what this book is about. I also quit drinking coffee, which is not that big a deal for a lot of people. But for me, drinking coffee was not healthy because I'm autistic and I have a heavily disordered nervous system. And the coffee was aggravating and inflaming that every single day. And I would use the wine then to try to calm that down. And it was a vicious cycle and it was not working for me. So again, I know what I'm talking about. And I wrote this book to help you stop any habit that you might be struggling with. Could be anything, drinking coffee, consuming some substance like I was, scrolling social media to a degree that it stops you from doing other things that you feel that you know would be more fulfilling for you. This is the book for you. There are 30 days of exercises and or journaling prompts to work with. And it's rooted in neuroscience and somatics, polyvagal theory and energy work. It's got some real stuff behind it. And it's all stuff that has helped me. And it prompts to help you figure out what part of you first really attached to that habit and is probably still really attached to that habit. So maybe keeping you from fully engaging with stopping that habit. It's a whole lot to think about, and it's all in this book, which is available in the TikTok shop or on Amazon. I will be in person at Sakala, which we will talk about momentarily, next week on December 12th for their community. It's not my event, but I'll be there and I'll have a few copies of the book. So if you would like to meet me and my guest, Meghan, and you're in Denver next week, that would be a great time to do it. So I'm going to turn my attention now to today's episode. My guest today, Meghan Rubinstein, is a beautiful person. She founded Sakala in Denver as a place for like-minded healers and people who want to be part of community with each other to get together, and offers classes in Reiki and all sorts of things that are the sorts of things that I engage with and that you probably do too if you are watching this show. I was fortunate enough to meet Meghan at one of these gatherings, a community gathering, Coffee and Community, TEA, that they have, and they will be hosting one next week, December 12th. And again, please come out if you're in the area and meet Meghan, and I'll be there in the morning as well with a few copies of my book. Meghan and I talk about overcoming habits, overcoming addictions that hold us back and stand in the way of our joy, and overcoming trauma that perhaps has us feeling stuck and broken and as if we are not worthy people in the world, which of course we are. We all are. I guarantee you that. And so Meghan and I talk about her experience and my experience and how she came to be where she is today, and perhaps some things that might help you get to where you want to be someday. I love talking with her, and I'm looking forward to coming back at the end of the episode and telling you about what you can look forward to on Empower Your Magical Self next week for the 11th episode, which will be on December 11th. Kind of excited about that. Okay, I'll see you back here on the other side. Meghan, can you hear me? Hi.
Oh, hi. Have you been talking to me and I just
I
didn't hear
have.
back? I'm so sorry. I'm so
I keep
sorry.
saying, hello, can you hear me? Hello.
I was like, oh, maybe she'll be on in a minute. And then I was like, oh, wait, I don't have my sound on. I'm so sorry. I do
It's
that
okay.
all.
It's totally fine.
Okay. How are you? Yeah.
I'm very good. Thank you. Meghan Rubinstein. I want to say it correctly.
It's Steen.
Rubinstein. Meghan Rubinstein,
Yeah.
the creatrix, I guess I could say, of Sakala. I don't want to put words in your mouth about what you are and who you are. So tell me, if you will, in your own words.
Well, my business card says creator and community maker.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
I met you at Sakala, which is a wonderful place, and we'll get into what all that is. But one reason I hesitate over how to introduce you is I remember very distinctly when I met you at Sakala, very wonderful place, and I said, "Oh, you're the owner." And you said, "I don't believe in ownership." And right there I was like, "Oh, okay. I love that, but I don't know what to do with that." You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I felt like I hear you, I see you, I love that you said that, but what do I so it kind of in a weird way it creates a little bit of a discomfort and awkward space, which I think is good. But I'm asking you to now help me and help listeners fill that in then, because I, like you, I think that's wonderful. I think that's a model to move to, but as we're not currently there yet, so how do you address that? You're not the owner of Sakala, let's say that. So just talk
Sure.
to me from that point of view, if you will.
Sure. So I just don't really believe in ownership. I don't need to own anything. I am a creator. I create things so that other people can, and myself can enjoy them, can thrive in the space. And I want everyone to feel ownership over Sakala. Sakala would be nothing without all of the other humans who are sharing their beautiful gifts there. And I want them to feel like it's their home too. And by creating that type of environment, it also empowers everyone to be a caretaker of the space because it belongs to them.
Right.
And the other piece of that I think creates discomfort for people is that I don't believe in ownership because I feel like we take so much, right? And we want to have this power and this control over it, and ultimately we have none.
Right.
So, so yes, and the other piece, I guess, is that this isn't something I ever wanted to do alone. So I don't believe in this sort of hierarchy that the term owner creates. I feel like Sakala is a place of equality, inclusivity, and diversity. And I want everyone to feel that when they are part of the community.
I love that. And I don't in any way, I hope I didn't make you feel uncomfortable by bringing that up, because it was such an interesting statement that you made and made me consider so much about myself and about you and about Sakala. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for that explanation, because there are a lot of awkward concepts and conversations that are going to need to be had to get from where we are now to where we want to be, in my
Agreed.
opinion. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now let's back up and I know what Sakala is, just,
Sure.
as an outsider, but tell my audience, please, what is Sakala?
So that's a great question, and actually something that I've been contemplating a lot lately, because Sakala, we have these four walls, we have this building, but to me, it's so much more than that. I have been thinking a lot about how I want Sakala to be perceived within the larger community, and really, to me, it's a movement. And I say that because, within those four walls, I feel like what we're creating is sort of this microcosm of what the world could be. And I'm choosing my words carefully here, right?
Good.
Because
Yeah.
again, this diversity, inclusivity, equality, these words are thrown around a lot. And there are a lot of amazing people out there doing this type of work. And I invite them all in, of course, to be a part of Sakala as well, and have Sakala be a part of their movement, because we're all stronger together. And I think this is the backbone of what Sakala is. But to get into the more like nitty gritty, like daily kind of thing, Sakala is a space where guides come, and we have a very accessible structure for how they can rent the space. It has a lot of flexibility within that, because accessibility looks different for everyone. So at Sakala, we're very committed to meeting everyone where they are, because everybody's life situation is different. And so we try to be really sensitive to that. So there's a lot built into how we interact with each person as an individual, having their own human experience. And so guides come, they rent the space, and they provide their offerings, where they share their gifts. Sakala was very intentionally created with this idea of allowing people to show up as their authentic selves. So it's not going to be like your traditional yoga studio or spa or anything like that. Although a lot of those services are offered within the space, because I'm not interested in telling people what they have to call something, how they have to teach it, what their playlist needs to look like. I have two kids. I have enough micromanaging in my life, and I'm not interested in micromanaging everybody else, because these gifts that people have to share are theirs for a reason. And I want them to be able to share those gifts, how they perceive what they perceive to be their purpose and in this lifetime. And so, and I also want them to feel successful. And of course, success is defined differently for everyone, but so whatever that is for them, I am here to support that. And Sakala is here to support that. And so by having these accessible rates where people rent the space and then they can charge whatever they want, Lots of people do donation-based, sliding scale, fixed cost. It's really all over the place. I don't control any of that. And I don't get any kickback from any of that either. So it's really just straightforward, the space rental, and then people can make whatever they want to make, depending on how they want to offer their classes or workshops or events or one-on-one sessions. We do have a community space for those classes and events, and then we also have some healing rooms. Everything can be rented by the hour, starting with a 2-hour minimum. This allows people who are trying to build a client base, a space where they can come and feel safe in renting that space, knowing that they have a client to fill it and they're going to make some money for their energetic exchange. And it can also be rented on a recurring basis. It can be rented for trainings, for workshops, you name it, you dream it. I'm here for the dream. I want everybody to dream, and I want them to trust Sakala to bring those dreams to life.
I love that. And I keep hearing you say something that is a fundamental in my life, which is one size fits all is a lie. It's one of the biggest lies that anyone's ever going to tell you. And if someone tries to tell you that, just know that it's not true, because generally they're trying to sell you a bill of goods and make you feel like you're not fitting into the mold somehow when they say one size fits all. And Sakala very much demonstrates that one size does not fit all, and it doesn't need to, and it doesn't ask that falsity be upheld.
Yeah.
It's a very authentic and truthful place. And just speaking as an outsider, I haven't taught or held any events there, but I have come to your community gatherings there that you offer that are just free and are just really, really welcoming. I'm an autistic person and I have really intense social anxiety. So those kind of situations can just be nightmarish for me. But I've always felt really welcomed and have met some very cool, interesting people there. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up the community gatherings. That's something I didn't mention. Because our community is so important at Sakala, we do have these free gatherings. So we offer Coffee and Community once a month, and those are, everything we do is very casual. People kind of come and go as they're able. There's coffee, there's tea, there are snacks, and we're really just hanging out. There's networking that happens, there's catching up, there's meeting new people. I love these events because oftentimes what happens is people make these beautiful connections, and then they end up having offerings where they are partnering, and that's just such a beautiful thing to witness. And then we also do, I would say, more quarterly types of gatherings that are larger, sort of think like your big, potluck family style kind of event. And often at those events, we also have components of guides that work in the space coming there to heal each other. So people will offer just for free at those types of events to bring their gifts and share them with others. And I think that is great as well, because oftentimes I think we as guides in this space who are working so hard to heal others find ourselves giving so much of ourselves and not always finding the space to receive. So that's an important component of those events as well.
Absolutely. It's a great place to meet like-minded people. That's where I met Sequoia, who was a guest on my show last year. People might remember who. Yeah. What does Sakala mean?
It means the total, whole, complete.
Is it Sanskrit or Hindi? Sanskrit. Okay.
Yeah.
And you are a yoga teacher by training, is that correct?
Yeah, so I teach a few different yoga modalities. I teach yogic breathwork and meditation.
there at Sakala, I'm sure. Why would you teach anywhere else?
I do event-based stuff at Sakala, and I don't have a regular yoga class at this point. I really have been focusing a lot in these last 2 years on building the community at Sakala, and also just what does it look like moving forward. So I like to think of it as an intentional and impactful community.
And I should mention too, just in case it occurs to me that people might be listening and think, where the heck is this place? It's in Denver. It is in, for people who aren't familiar with Denver, it's an old part of Denver. It's in Capitol Hill proper, isn't it? Is it considered Capitol Hill where it is?
That area gets like a little tricky, right? Because a lot of come together. So I tend to call it City Park West, but
yeah, I can see that for sure.
It's also like it's kind of right on the cusp of City Park West and Uptown.
Right.
But it's at 17th and Gilpin, basically. So
it's a very old part of town. It's an old building. You know the year that building was built in?
Oh, I did at some point, 1920, I want to say. I mean, it's old. It's old, not as old as my house, but it's old.
Yeah, I know. I think I have some people some listeners in England, and I'm sure they're thinking, "Oh, that's not old at all."
Oh, yeah.
But for here,
that's true.
It's very, very old, and the building has a lot of character. Just for anyone who might be imagining, a lot of us have been to the experience, not knocking it, of going to a yoga or healing session in a strip mall kind of situation. That's how a lot of life is these days. That's take it and do with it as you will. But Sakala has a lot of character. It's an old building, and you very much get the feeling that the different healing rooms are different little, like they used to be little bedrooms. It has a very homey kind of a feel. It's very different than the experience of going to a mall or a strip center or whatever, which is the reality of life for a lot of things and a lot of life now. But that is another thing that I really like about Sakala. I like older buildings. I like places with character.
Me too.
And that certainly fits the bill.
Sakala's got the space, the building that we're in, which has this beautiful blue door. It's actually one of my favorite parts about it. But has gone through a few iterations of what it's been. So it was row homes at one point, which is why it feels like that with the little bedrooms. And there are other businesses in the building, but they're very separate, which is nice as well. So we have one whole side of the building. And it has been, let's see, so row homes, it was a mortuary.
Was it really? Interesting.
Yes.
Now, let me stop on that. I just want to stop you because this is a very conversational conversation. And when you say something like that, I have to stop and ask you. Do you believe have you experienced any supernatural haunting, knocking about, that sort of thing in Sakala? Just as an aside.
Yeah. So we were pretty intentional with offering things to the spirits that had been in the space before who were there. So we do offerings, and oftentimes I'll take flowers and I'll put them like out on the front lawn. I'll talk to them. The other thing is we have the space cleared energetically by a professional once a week. We salt the doorways. The entire space is crystal gridded. We're very protective of the energy. And if there is something there that is negative, I should say, negative or potentially harmful, Tony takes care of it. So we haven't really had many problems. There was communication in the beginning with, around the mortuary so that we could make sure that there weren't any, there wasn't any leftover, I don't know, I guess I would say.
Lingering.
Yeah, well,
unsettled.
yeah, that there wasn't anything unsettling, that there hadn't been, mistreatment,
Mm-hmm.
which, we've heard of happening at places like
Sure.
mortuary. And
Right.
there wasn't any.
Good.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was good news. And then we
Mm-hmm.
did some offerings.
Great.
So I think everyone was appeased.
Good.
Now, I will say that sometimes people bring things in with them and then they are like, ooh, this place is nice. And, they detach from the
So they bring
person.
things in energetically, you're saying. You're not talking about like a piece of paper or something. You're talking
Yes,
about,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
okay. Just want to
energetically,
clarify.
but they might
Mm-hmm.
be like little beings also
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
come in with them because they attach to people.
Right.
And then they see Sakala and they're like, whoa, this place is nice. I'm gonna hang out here and check this
Right.
out. And when that happens, Tony is very aware of it and he finds them and he ushers them along.
Yeah.
And so we haven't had any of those kinds of problems. There's another woman who works at Sakala now. We have our first employee, which is really exciting. Her name is Irina Wells. She is a community maker and caretaker at Sakala. And when she's there cleaning by herself, there is a woman potentially in Quaker type style outfit, she has said, that just follows her around. And she's not like harmful or anything. And I have never seen her, but Arena sees her and hears her, and she seems to energetically enjoy Arena. So she follows her around, but there's nothing
Nothing negative, nothing.
negative about her, but she
Yeah.
won't follow her into the community room, which I think is interesting.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
I think it's because Arena has this very symbiotic relationship with Spirit that is protecting the community room. And so they
Mm-hmm.
won't let this woman pass the door
I
when Arena's.
see. I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's
It's
kind of,
interesting.
I know. And so sometimes when I'm there alone at night, I'm like, is she here? And I'm kind of freaked out, but I don't think I'm not her thing, I guess.
Right.
So she
Not an
doesn't come.
energetic match, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyways, so yeah, but nothing, the energy at Sakala is so clean. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the comments I get from people all the time, whether it's someone coming into the space for an event or it's one of the practitioners in the space, I always get the comment of, it just feels so good in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want. We want people to walk through the door and just have that sort of like moment where they feel like they can leave it all there. We're going
Right.
to take care of it. Tony will clear it. They don't have to bring it home with them. Like this is a sanctuary for people, and the guides who work in the space are very grateful because they don't feel like they have to really do much to prepare for anything that they're offering because the energy is already so
Right.
clean in the space. And that's one of the highest compliments that we can get because we are very intentional about the energy in the space. And
Yeah,
so
I can vouch for that. It feels really good there. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
It
Yeah.
has also been a healing space in the past. I
Mm.
believe there was Tai Chi and like Thai yoga massage offered there in previous iterations of what the space was as well.
How long has it been, Sakala?
Just about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we had our 1-year celebration last year. We did it on October 22nd, which
Oh, wow. So it really coming up within the next month or so will be 2 years, huh?
yeah, there is no real exact date, to be honest with you. It was we just opened softly, very soft
Uh-huh.
opening. I always joke that's I softly open, so that's how I opened the space. And so I think that what I really wanted to see happen with Sakala was I just wanted it to grow organically. So
Mhm.
nothing flashy, no big grand opening, none of that kind of thing. I just was calling in the people who were looking for the kind of community that I was trying to create. And
Mhm.
it worked. You
Yeah.
know, I think that there's always a little self-doubt.
Right.
And I remember telling my husband, who is, you know, he has his MBA, he has his own business, he's very business minded, and kind of telling him how I was going to, you know, kind of run things at Sakala. And he was like, "You're going to do what?" And I was like, "It's going to be fine. It will be fine because of the intention
Yeah.
behind it."
Yeah.
And it's been great.
Yeah.
Sakala is great. It's beautiful.
It's
And
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm so grateful to have the community that we do, and to have that space. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. But I think Sakala there's more for Sakala. And I'm a manifesting generator. So I am always thinking about what's next and what more can we create? What more can we do? And so sometimes I have to like rein myself back in and be patient with it and say, okay, well, that's phase 5. So
Sure.
we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
You know, so we're getting close. Right now is about 2 years, I guess I would say. And last year I celebrated it on October 22nd because that was also my 5-year soberversary. So it just felt really special to me, and like a lot of things had come. I'd grown so much in that time, and Sakala
Mhm.
was definitely part of my journey, and
Mhm.
will continue to be,
Yeah.
and how I heal myself. And so it was important to me to acknowledge both of those things at the same time.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'd like to kind of get in the next part of our talk into kind of your personal healing extravaganza, because my audience, who I target is an ugly word in this case, but who I hope is enjoying this podcast, are people who, like myself, considered themselves to be very broken at one point, who thought that I was not. And I get really emotional every episode talking about this. I think I'm not going to get up emotional, and then I get emotional. So bear with me. Who I thought, I did not think I could be happy in life. I thought that this life that I had been born into was kind of a punishment.
Mhm.
Um, and that I just had to grit and get through it.
Yeah,
I did not think that happiness and living a joyful life was a possibility for me.
yeah,
And because I lived in that space for so long, I know that there are people out there who feel that way right now.
yeah.
And I'm doing this for them.
Hmm.
And so I like to talk with all of my guests because all of my guests are people who have done things with their lives that perhaps they themselves did not think that they could do or would not have seen themselves doing.
Yeah.
They're people who have, in most cases, overcome great adversity. Some of them even, I talked with this, she'll be on this season. Her name is Monita. She is a high vibe musician, musical artist.
Hmm.
Absolutely incredible young person. She's German. She's been living in London. Her lease ran out, but she thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go to China to Kung Fu camp. So I spoke with her from
Yeah.
China, Kung Fu camp. I didn't know much about her personally. And I said, you seem to me like a person who everything is magic. Nothing has ever bad happened to you. Is that true? And she said, yeah, I guess that's kind of true. Although she says, although my mom did die of alcohol related reasons when I was 15 and I had to go into foster care. So I guess that kind of sucked. So I'm like, that is like, so she's an
Yeah.
example of someone who perhaps does not think of herself as having overcome huge adversity and become this magical person. Nevertheless, from the outside, that's very much what she seems like to me. So,
Yeah.
all that to say, everyone who I have on my podcast has one way or another done some incredible thing that from the outside people might just think, how the hell would you I could never do such a thing. I'm a broken, sad, being punished for some crime in a past life person. Talk
Yeah.
to that person and just
Hmm.
talk to that person.
Well, I guess first I will say we have to rewrite that narrative
Right.
because none of us are broken. And a lot of the reasons that we might end up feeling that way, oftentimes, whether it's a larger traumatic experience that occurs or these smaller micro traumas that just add up over time, so that we create these narratives in our mind about who we are based on things that have happened to us and or things that maybe we've been told at some point in our lives, right? Like, you know, the parent that would say all the time, like, or the teacher, like, you're just too much, right? You're just too much. Like, calm down.
Rein
And
it in.
I
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, there are moments that I still think about in my mind that obviously greatly impacted me, such as like, I believe I was in third or fourth grade and I had a teacher put on my report card that I was manipulative.
Ooh.
Like, who does that?
Wow.
Because
Way to label an
she didn't like
8-year-old,
me.
right?
No, I know. It still boggles my mind. And
Right.
I think about as a parent now what I would have said to that teacher.
Right.
And you know, and then there's that component of like, well, why didn't my mom defend me?
Right.
Right. You must have thought the same thing of me.
Right.
So, and I just use that as one small tiny example of how we can hold on to like these micro traumas, right? Like these things that might seem so silly now when we look back on them, but they have created this narrative about who we are.
It's true. And I
And
just want to stop for just a second
yeah,
because then we can get into that of like, why can't I let go of that? And then beat up on ourselves. But and I want to really what you said is so true is that it has kind of wired, it's become baked into who we are. So it's
yeah,
not a matter of just like, oh, let it go, poof, it's gone. It's part of the mechanism of who
mhm,
we are. So
yeah,
please carry on because I hate for people to beat themselves up over
yeah.
not being able to let things go.
Yeah, and I think, you know, besides all of, you know, the generational stuff, and the ancestral stuff, right? Because there's
Yeah,
all of that that you have to
absolutely.
consider. Besides all of that, if you just look at this lifetime that you are currently in, the experiences that you've had, right? I mean, for myself personally, you know, I have, and I've been diving into some EMDR
It's
recently,
fabulous.
and
Love
yeah,
EMDR.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the messages that came up for me was, you know, digging even deeper into this like idea of I'm not enough, which I'm always chasing. It's not enough. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Is this idea that I'm expendable? And
Yeah.
I think, whew, that's a tough one, right? Like, how do you rewrite that story, the I'm expendable, that people are expendable? And I think tying this into Sakala even, right? I'm trying to create a community where no one will ever have to feel like that.
Right.
They are not a single one of them is expendable. All of the people who come to Sakala, whether they're coming to share their gifts or to experience, they are Sakala. And without them, it is nothing. And so I just want people to have a place where they belong and they feel like they are valued and seen and heard and held, because we don't have enough spaces like that. We're all walking around all the time trying to find that, right? And we pay therapists, we pay alternative healers, we pay doctors to figure out what's wrong with us when we all just want to belong
Right.
And we all just want to be seen.
Right.
And I think that this is what my journey has taught me. You know, my mom also, so my parents were divorced very young. My dad was not very involved, you know, in and out of my life for most of my life. And my mom actually remarried. My stepfather and I did not get along. I got kicked out when I was 17, moved in with a friend whose mom was an abusive alcoholic. We started our own cleaning company because we had no money. And then I went to college. And my first year of college, my mom got in a fatal car accident, which she actually was in a coma for a while. Then she was a vegetable for like 3 years and died when I was 21. So a senior in college. And so that obviously was a very traumatic experience. I didn't really have the tools, nor had I ever been taught the tools of how to deal or manage with that. So my coping mechanism became to run away, to escape, whether it was like moving somewhere or drinking, doing drugs, whatever it was. And it continued, and that continued to be my coping mechanism for a long time. And, you know, I had some other experiences in life that reminded me of how expendable I was, how forgettable I was. And I continued to increase my drinking, my drug usage. And then when I became a stay-at-home mom for a little while, I lost myself. And you know, it got pretty bad before I dug myself out. And I'm really lucky that I have a very supportive and loving partner who really, truly sees me. And, you know, without him, I couldn't have done it. And I did go through a rehab program, and it saved my life. I couldn't have done it alone. But after all of that, you know, I was exploring what community looks like around that and what I needed to maintain my sobriety. And I just wasn't finding it. You know, I did a yoga teacher training. I explored a lot of alternative healing, and I just wasn't finding the thing. And, you know, I talked with a lot of friends who were also yoga teachers, and you know that it's a struggle. A lot of times yoga teachers, it's either their hobby, or you know, they do it on the side, or they're hustling all around town, teaching all over the place, doing a million different trainings, spending a ton of money on it. And it just felt like there had to be something better. And so I sort of combined those two things and created Sakala. And so I think that, you know, it just got to the point where I was like, I can either keep complaining about, you know, and being sad about not finding what I need, or I can create it. Because if I need it, somebody else does too.
Right. And I think that's a really good, there's a point where a choice came in. And I know it can really, I don't know about you, but when I was deep in my illness, when I would hear somebody talk about happiness being a choice, I would want to punch them in the throat. I don't know about you, but I mean, on the other side of it, I can see where it is a choice, but I can also see where it feels like the most insulting and hurtful thing that anybody can say to you.
Yeah. I mean, we have to give ourselves grace. It's also okay to not be happy one day or 2 days or 3 days. It's okay to not be okay, right? And I remember being in AA meetings, and it like towards the beginning, and hearing someone say, I'm a grateful alcoholic. And I was like, same thing like what you're saying. I was like, what? It made me angry. I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, how could you be grateful?
Right.
But now I get it. Because honestly, Leah, if I hadn't gone through that experience, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Right.
I wouldn't be, able to share this story and hopefully help others, I wouldn't have created Sakala. I might be dead. I mean, all of these things, right? If I hadn't gone through all of that, and I say this all the time to people, but I feel like if everyone in our world had to go through some sort of like rehabilitation program, whatever the addiction piece was, like the components of those programs really just teach you how to be a decent human being.
Right.
And if everyone had to go through one of those programs, like I don't think it should just be for addicts and alcoholics and people with those types of challenges. I think everyone should do it.
Bringing up so many thoughts for me. One, first and foremost, I want to really for anybody who's in that place that I previously described of feeling like they're broken, feeling like, fuck it, I'm a junkie. Fuck it, I'm this, I'm that. Listen right there. What you're living through is fuel for the greatness that can come. And that's where your choice can be. Your choice can either be to say, that's it, I'm washed up, I'm a junkie, I've fucked this life up, now I'm just waiting to die. That's a choice. Or your choice can say, it's scary as fuck to comprehend the fact that I could get better. I don't know what that'll look like. I don't know what it'll feel like. I don't know how to start, but I'm ready. And I want to do it. That's the choice right there.
I was scared. I was terrified. But I was more terrified that I was going to die.
Yeah.
And leave my children motherless.
Yes. And so that's the choice. Go ahead, Meghan.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I would also say to anyone who's feeling like that, you are not alone. You're not alone. There are so many people out there who have similar stories, obviously not the same, everyone's experience is different, but who understand where you're coming from and who will be there to support you. I will tell you that at Sakala in particular, once I started this part of my journey, it blew my mind how many people out there offering these healing services are sober or have been through, they've experienced trauma in their lives, and those experiences are what drove them, and in their own healing journey are what drove them to help remind others of their own innate healing gifts.
That's right.
And so yeah, I mean, again, there of course are other places that have people who offer these types of services, but at Sakala there's also a lot of specifically sober events, like sobriety healing circles, and there's also a monthly community, what do they call them? I'm sorry. I think they call them community healing.
Yeah.
And they offer 20-minute donation-based Reiki sessions and AccuDetox, which is ear acupuncture. And it's used a lot to help people with addiction as well. And so those are these beautifully amazing events. They happen every first Wednesday of the month.
You can find all this on the Sakala website as well.
So that's an interesting question.
Okay. Let's go ahead and tell that story then. Okay.
Because of the nature of how we operate, which is that each person who uses this space is their own spiritual entrepreneur, I don't always have all the information on the website, and that's because I need each person to give me their event information, and if they don't give it to me, it doesn't end up on the website.
Understood.
However, I do post a weekly happening at Sakala every Sunday night, so people know what's happening for the week, and I post that on Instagram. And our Instagram account is at Sakala Community, Sakala.
Great. Community.
Yes. And our website is sakalacommunity.com.
Okay. And that'll all be in the show notes for this, but
yeah. And the other thing I want to stress is that as a community maker at Sakala, I am accessible. So my phone number is on the website. I check email daily. And so if people have questions, if they want to get a hold of me, I am accessible and I will answer, and I will be the person who calls them back.
right.
So, and I'm always happy to talk to, people who are already members of the community or potential new community members. The thing that probably brings me the most joy in all of this, and I had one of these moments yesterday in a meeting with a team of people who are looking at renting space at Sakala, and we ended up talking for, I don't know, an hour and a half. And this was a tour that was set up. So I also give personal tours. So if people just want to come see the space, or they're considering renting the space, and or they've rented the space and they've actually never been there, I always offer one-on-one time with everyone. It is one of my favorite parts about Sakala, is getting to know all of the people who are going to be working in the space. And like, I want to hear about their dreams. I want to hear about what they're doing. I want to hear about what they've been doing. I want to know people intimately. And I really do mean that. And I am here to support everyone in the space in whatever way I can. So, I often say this to my children, but I've found myself saying this a lot to people who are part of the community in Sakala as well. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just ask me.
Right.
You never know. You never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost time to go. This has been such a great conversation. I want to ask you, because I ask everyone who I speak with for the show. Yeah. Okay. So what is magic in your opinion and in your life? What is magic?
I love this question, because I've had this conversation multiple times with my kids, because a lot of the things that I do and or participate in are very woo-woo, right? We've all heard that term before. And what I say to them, I remind them often that there is no science without magic, and there is no magic without science. They are interwoven and cannot be separated. And I think that's a difficult thing for our Western brains to wrap our minds around. But I truly believe that. And I use the example of things like sound healing and breath work, and how there's a lot of scientific evidence about the things that it does to your brain and your body. But besides that answer, I would also say that magic is all around us all the time, if we can just open ourselves up to the possibilities. And it's in the little things. It's in a smile from a stranger. It's in a hug from your best friend. It's in a amazing conversation where you make a new connection and you find someone that you just have this like soul vibration with. It's in the changing leaves at this time of year. It's in the stars. It's everywhere. So I think that we all have the opportunity and the choice to experience magic.
Yeah.
And, again, I think it's in the little things.
And is it within all of us, or is it something that only some people have?
It's absolutely within all of us. I think we're just not all aware.
Right.
We're not all ready. We're not all on perhaps a soul level in this lifetime where we're ready to see it. But we all are made of magic, and we all have our own magic. We just have to be able be patient sometimes and be open so that we can uncover what that is, because we all have these special innate gifts, and different reasons why we were put here in this human form in this lifetime.
And there's really no exception to that, is there? I mean,
no.
there's somebody, because I know I would have heard that at one point in my life and thought, yeah, everybody but me, which is in a weird way, a weird kind of an arrogance to be like, I am so the fucking worst, lowest, that nobody else is as bad off emotionally and spiritually as me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that in active addiction, it's the same type of experience, right? Where you are so hyper focused on yourself that you don't see the bigger picture.
Right.
And so being able to pull yourself out of something like that is so resilient and strong. And like, that is probably one of the biggest life lessons you're meant to learn so that you can move into the next phase. But I often think, like, how boring would life be without magic?
Yeah.
How boring. And, you know, I've had this conversation with like a friend before, where I asked, you know, do you believe in reincarnation? And this person was like, no, not really. I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's so sad, because that's just like something to look forward to, right? I mean, I know we won't remember all of it necessarily, but like, it just seems like
it's kind of like being in the kitchen and being like, no, I don't believe in the bedroom because I'm in the kitchen right now. It's like, no, but the bedroom really exists. I promise you.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying everyone has to believe in reincarnation. I'm just saying, in my mind, it was like, whoa, that feels so finite to me. And I you know, and anyway, I don't know. That's how I think about magic, though.
I love it. Thank you, my dear. Is there anything else that you would like to say? This has been a wonderful conversation, Megan. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Leah. And I'm so honored that you asked me.
What are your big three birth signs? What are your sun, moon, and rising? Just out of curiosity.
I am Sag, Gemini, Pisces.
I'm Sag sun too.
Are you? When's your birthday?
December 15th.
Yeah, I'm November 27th.
So yeah. Do you feel, I identify more with my rising, which is Aries. Do you feel?
I feel like I'm a pretty good combination. I often think of it like, right, the sun sign is like that true essence of like, that's what you're born as, right? Before everything shapes and molds you. And then I think of the rising, like, so now I'm in more of my Pisces era, if that makes sense. So all of the experiences that I've gone through in life have led me to this much softer, more watery, right? Because the Sag is so like fiery.
Fire. I'm a triple fire sign.
Yeah, you're triple fire?
Triple fire. It is so exhausting and so hot and so sweaty and just
My Sagittarius still comes out a lot, though. There are things about me, for like my determination,
right?
And I do definitely kind of lean towards like fiery hot sort of things, like climates and workouts and, you know, hot drinks and like just all of those things. I definitely lean in there. But I also like, over time, if you look at all of the doshas as an example, right? Before, when I would take the test at like 20s and 30s, I was like, there was barely any vata or kapha. It was like all pitta. I was like, yep, that's about right.
Yeah.
And now I'm much more closer to, there's very little vata still. I'm not very like,
interesting.
But I'm much more kapha and pitta, like almost almost 50-50. And I think that having kids actually leaned me into that more like groundedness,
Right.
and the need to feel more grounded, as well as like my continued practice of like living my yoga, which
Right.
I think is so important to me and
Mm-hmm.
who I am and in my recovery. So yeah, it's all of that stuff is so interesting. And I recently had a human design natal chart combo reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of fascinating to, I think for me, those things generally tend to be very affirming
Uh-huh.
and also give me permission, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Like
yes, it does.
permission
Yeah,
to
that's
be who I
interesting you would
am.
say that because I say that my autism diagnosis, which I got when I was 48, gave me permission to love myself in a way
Mhm.
that I had never conceived of before. And I
Yeah,
wish that I hadn't needed that permission. And it
yeah,
makes me sad that I felt like I needed that permission. And I want everyone to know that they have permission. And if they feel like they don't, Megan and I are giving you permission right now to go love
yeah,
yourself up to the nth degree.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that is not being self-centered in the same way that Megan mentioned when you're actively in your addiction. That's a whole different thing because I've experienced both. And I can tell you, and Megan's nodding her head, it is a whole different thing. And it is a very healthy thing. And my wish to anyone as we're wrapping up this that's out there who wants to be in a better place than you are right now, do it because
yeah,
you can. And it's worth it, and you're worth it.
yeah.
So,
Because the
and
other
I
thing
want Megan to finish. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to like piggyback on that a little bit and say that one of the hardest things for me to learn so I want to say this out loud to everyone. You are not for everyone.
Yes,
You are not for everyone, and that's okay.
that's more than okay.
Yeah, because those that you are here for, they will fill your cup.
Yeah,
Those will be the relationships that will stand the test of time and that will nourish who you are and allow you to be seen and to show up as your authentic self. And that is Sakala to me. You're
yeah.
going to find those people there. You'll find those people there. Yeah.
And even if you're not in Denver and that's not a possibility for you,
Right.
there is somewhere else for you too. So
Yes. Well, come visit. And,
yeah,
who knows?
yeah,
If you want a Sakala in your area, call
yeah,
me.
yeah. There you go.
I'm always open to
Yeah,
those big ideas and those dreams
yeah.
because every community needs something different.
That's
And
right.
so Sakala could look different in a different community, but that doesn't mean it isn't Sakala.
That's right.
So
That's right.
anyway,
Yeah. That's
or come visit.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
Megan,
much,
thank you so
Leah.
much. This has just been beautiful. I really appreciate it. It's been great to get to talk to you a little bit longer than I have just in our
Yeah.
passing at Sakala. So this is
Yes.
lovely. And I thank you very much. So that was Meghan Rubinstein. What a delightful person she is. I was still hobbled from my broken leg during that talk. I could not go to see her at Sakala because I couldn't drive and I couldn't really even walk, but I'm mobile again. Yay. So I will be there next week at Sakala on December 12th to attend the Coffee and Community, and I'll have a few copies of my book if you want to show up. Now, that brings me to next week's episode, the 11th episode of the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. I'm going to be talking about the book, and I'm going to be reading portions of the book for the whole hour. That's going to be the theme, overcoming habits and different methods that you can use to overcome habits. And I'll walk you through the book, and it'll be a cool episode. And if you buy the book, it'll be a great little accompaniment. And if you don't, you can just use the episode to help you think about whatever habit you might want to overcome in a different way. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening to my story and to welcoming me and my guest into your personal sphere there, wherever you are. So thank you again. And I will see you back here next week for the 11th episode of the second season of Empower Your Magical Self. Thanks so much. Get out there and empower your magical self, protect your energy, and have a wonderful week. Bye.